ladies and gentlemen, these presidential candidates are dancing around the topic of reparations. They won't give a real solid answer. They're trying to avoid the question altogether when it comes down to race in America. They are like Pete Buttigieg. They acknowledge that Black America has been done wrong, but they fall short of saying they really support reparations. And when they do say they support it, they support HR 40, which we know is nothing but a study. And ladies and gentlemen, these studies are nothing but stall tactics. That's all they are. They're trying to stall, and hopefully you'll be satisfied with HR 40 and the fact that they're studying slavery and reparations, that you will be quiet at least for a moment. But these things are not going to work. The Black community is demanding reparations. And if you didn't do studies for everybody else, you should not have to do a study in this case. Again, it's nothing but a mere stall tactic. So this came out in the Magaldum Nation. Joe Biden ducks question on reparations. Mayor Pete says he supports HR 40 and acknowledges Black America's wealth was stolen, but stopped short of supporting reparations. And this is the problem with the Democratic candidates, ladies and gentlemen. They don't realize they are hurting their chances of getting the Black support every time they do these things. We have been asking for an agenda, a Black agenda, a plan that they will implement once they get into office on reparations. And everybody is dancing around and trying to avoid this. But that's okay. You keep trying to avoid reparations, and we're going to avoid you on election day. We're going to avoid the polls and voting for you. And this is why these candidates are all struggling for the Black vote right now. It's because of their stand on reparations that's causing this whole thing. So this came out December 20th, 2019. So they had a presidential debate, ladies and gentlemen, and these politicians are a joke. And it goes back to me telling you, I don't like any politician. So the American public is no longer just letting politicians get away without actually answering questions. There was an uproar on Twitter after last night's Democratic debate when former Vice President Joe Biden ignored a question about whether he would support reparations for descendants of slaves. Yes, he answered the question in a way that had nothing to do with reparations at all. When the moderator asked Biden if he supported reparations, Biden first said he was happy for the chance to speak on it, then went on a tangent that instead praised the hard work of immigrants. We weren't immigrants. No one involved in chattel slavery were immigrants. So that question that was asked and his answer had nothing to do with reparations at all. Number one, the reason we're the country we are today is because of immigration. This is Joe Biden. No, you are the country that you are today because of slavery, free labor. and all of our inventions that came out of that slavery. We've been able to cherry pick the best from every single continent. The people who come here have determination, resilience. They are ready to stand up and work like the devil. Biden began the continued by speaking about Hispanic immigrants. Yes, his whole answer was on Hispanic immigrants when the question was about reparations for, the descendants of slaves. He went on a rant about Hispanics. And this is why no one in the Black community should be voting for Joe Biden. There's only so much you can ignore. So those of you that are ignoring this and you still want to vote for Joe Biden, you need to be dragged at this point for taking that position on a man that sounds like a Dixiecrat decades ago when he was a politician, and he really don't sound too far off from one today, especially when he gave that answer that Black people need to learn how to be parents. Really, Joe Biden? You with two junkie children are telling somebody else they need to learn how to be a parent? Maybe you need to learn how to be one yourself. So this is a tweet that was posted by Lorraine. And this was December 20th, 2019. I'm going to go ahead and play this. See if I can. Okay. Okay, well, I'll come back to it if it comes up. All right, so the audience applauded Biden's total non-answer, but the American public pointed out how distasteful and disrespectful his words were. Slaves were cherry-picked and were forced to work like the devil for hundreds of years, but they certainly weren't immigrants or Hispanics. That's right. It wasn't the first time he failed to answer a question about the topic. In September, Biden also rambled and went off topic when asked about reparations. But Biden wasn't the only one conflating answers and dodging giving direct answers. He was in parallel company of South Bend, Indiana Mayor Pete Buttigieg, who stopped short of saying he would support actual financial reparations for descendants of slaves. And ladies and gentlemen, this is why we cannot pick any of these candidates until they give a clear stand on reparations and they have a clear agenda that they will carry out as president. If they fall short on that, we should not be committing our votes to any of them. And I think that's a big mistake that our people are doing that. Let's see if this came up or not. No. All right. So we're not going to wait for that one. There's another one I can try. So when a moderator asks Buttigieg if he would commit to giving financial compensation to immigrant families separated at the border, he responded with an unequivocal yes. Really? How come you couldn't respond that way to reparations? Are you committing as president to financial compensation for those children, the moderator asks. Yes, and they should have a fast track to citizenship because what the United States did under this president to them was wrong. And we have a moral obligation to make right what was broken, Buttigieg answered without hesitation. But he couldn't commit to reparations, y'all. Again, no Black person in this country should be committing a vote to any of these candidates that have not presented an agenda to you. And none of them on that stage have done such a thing. You know, they are caught up and staying on the track of benign and neglect. They are desperately trying to stay on that. Get the Black vote, but don't you dare do anything for those Black people. Don't do nothing for them. And that's fine. Democrats will just lose for years to come. So you can keep up that attitude if you want, but you will get absolutely nothing from us. So, however, when asked if he support reparations for Black America, Buttigieg instead touted his support for H.R. 40, the bill to study reparations. You see, nobody should be satisfied with that. He was all for restitution for immigrants because they got separated at the border, but he just supports a study for Black Americans on reparations. Since you do support compensation for those immigrant families, should the U.S. also compensate descendants of enslaved people? This is what the moderator is asking. Do you support reparations for African Americans? The moderator asked. And his answer, I support H.R. 40, which is the bill that has been proposed in Congress to establish a commission to look at reparations, but we shouldn't wait to do things that are reparative. Buttigieg said. All right, so let me see if this hashtag ADOS San Francisco, let me see if this one works.
For those families, should the U.S. also compensate descendants of enslaved people? Do you support reparations for African Americans?
I support H.R. 40, which is the bill that has been proposed in Congress to establish a commission to look at reparations. But we shouldn't wait for that commission to do its work to do things that are reparative. Remember, we're not talking about a gift to anybody. We're talking about mending what was broken. We're talking about the generational theft of the wealth of generations of African Americans. And just crossing out a racist policy and replacing it with a neutral one is not enough to deliver equality. Harms compound, just like a dollar saved in its value compounds over time. So does the value of a dollar stolen. And that is why the United States must act immediately with investments in minority-owned businesses, with investments in health equity, with investments in HBCUs, and on the longer term, look at reparations so that we can mend what has been done.
Vice President Biden, do you support reparations?
Well, let me, since I haven't spoken on this, get a chance. Number one, the reason
look at what he said.
Is because of immigration. We've been able to cherry pick the best from every single time. The people who come here,
nothing to do with reparations.
Resilience. They are ready to stand up and work like the devil.
The people who come here.
100 children in our school today is Hispanic. The idea that we are going to walk away and not provide every opportunity for them is that not only stupid and immoral, but is bad for America. They are the future of America, and we should invest in them. Everybody will benefit from it. Every single American. And you should get used to it. This is a nation of immigrants. That's who we are.
Look at his face.
That's why we're who we are. That's what makes us different. And we should invest in.
Look at his face.
He did not answer the question. The question was about reparations, and he spoke about immigration and Hispanics. That's what Joe Biden did. And Buttigieg stopped short of saying he would support reparations. He said he suggests investing in Black businesses and HBCUs and more. That's not reparations. So, ladies and gentlemen, as long as these Democratic candidates keep sidestepping the question of reparations, you should not be committing to any of them. You know, it's not that hard. Do you support reparations? Yes or no? Yes or no? It should not be this difficult for them to answer that question. Biden should be bitch slapped for giving that answer, reparations, and then he rambled on about Hispanics and immigration when the question was about reparations for slavery. And Buttigieg was all over giving reparations to immigrant families that were separated at the border, but he just supports H.R. 40 for Black Americans who are the descendants of slaves. All of this should be unacceptable. We should not be accepting any of these answers from these presidential candidates until they come up with a Black agenda and cut the check and give up the tangibles. None of them should be considered or even worthy of the Black vote. As long as they cannot answer this question sufficiently, y'all, and show the Black community a real hardcore agenda with financial retribution, you should be saying no to each and every one of these candidates. How they answer the questions on reparations is unacceptable. But y'all, please tell me what you think. Please leave your comment and subscribe. Don't forget to hit on the notification bell, and I'll see you on the next video. Peace, family.